words of the legendary Lou Gellerman, hello, dog fans, and welcome to the Sound the Siren podcast, because everything matters, including revenge the dish best served. Well, not ice cold, but at 50-ish degrees on a Saturday night at Husky Stadium. I won't necessarily say that it makes up for the national championship game, but it's certainly better to have one than none. I am your host, Hooligan 7. I'm joined tonight by JCap, Hood, Husky, and the Darker Knight. How are you gentlemen doing this evening, fresh off that win over the Michigan Wolverines Saturday night at Husky Stadium?
Doing great, man.
Doing
Finally
well,
got my
well.
back. Got my voice back. How are the sore obliques, JCap?
Dude, they were pretty sore. I'm trying to get my section hyped up at that game. I woke up in the morning, I was like, oh, nah.
I ain't done this many shoulder raises in a minute.
Dude, seriously.
All right. As always, of course, we're on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at Sound the Siren UW. Please subscribe and leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening to our show. Certainly, it would help us a lot over the next month or so if you'd listen to us on Spotify. If you're watching on YouTube, please like this video and hit that subscribe button to get notified when we post new content. If you'd like to support Sound the Siren, you can do so at podcasters.spotify.com/show/soundthesirenpod/UW/support, or you can click the link that is on the screen now. We are, of course, also a proud member of the College Huddle. Please check out thecollegehuddle.com and other College Huddle podcasts. But without further ado, it's time for beverages. JCap, what do you got tonight?
I'm just on that high quality H2O with my Sound the Siren podcast stickered water bottle.
It's definitely a high quality accessory for your hydration containers. Darker Knight, how about you? What do you got?
On that Bobby Boucher, that high quality H2O. Same old same.
The old thing, yes. I had some earlier, also with a Sound the Siren sticker. Shout out to the 4th and Inches pod as well. Got one of their stickers on here. But I did in the pre-show. I've got an early morning tomorrow, so I'm on a non-alcoholic beer, the Deschutes Black Butte non-alcoholic, kind of reminiscent of their porter, and it's for a non-alcoholic porter, it's quite tasty. Hood, what do you got tonight, buddy?
I was told that I make 2 grown men giggle whenever I mention that I'm drinking high quality H2O. So you know what I'm saying? I'm for the shits and the giggles today. I got my high quality. I left Essentia. You know, Essentia had a lot of drama attached to her. You know, so I got the Icelandic. the Skyra. You know what I'm saying? She sounded a little more exotic. So I'm gonna go Essentia, and I had to leave Essentia alone.
On a world tour.
You ain't seen the waters in Iceland, bro? Come on, you know I had my gang.
Yeah, so it is time for stupid tweets, and I'm trying to find the exact stupid tweet. I'll start with this one, and this one is at Colin Cowherd for saying the UCLA Bruins booster/donor Chip Kelly was the problem. That's in reference to the struggles that UCLA is having this year. Colin, remind me again who was responsible for recruiting basically the entire roster or in this instance, in a big part of the problem for the UCLA Bruins, not recruiting an entire roster.
Mm-hmm. That man didn't
anybody? Any other stupid tweets that we should discuss?
So, you know, now I probably deserved it, you know, trolling a little bit, but the Barstool Ducks account asked, what's the best Duck game you've ever attended? And I said it was the Pick Your Mans Up game, where we played Oregon at home last year, man. You know, it seemed like there was a lot of ducks on the ground. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what that was all about, but I call it the Pick Your Mans Up game. So I quote tweeted that and just said that that's the game that I choose. Posted a couple pictures about it. And my dog, you know what I'm saying, Big Key, you know what I'm saying. Shout out a listener, a Duck listener that we got, Key. He said you didn't win nothing behind it. And in my head, I was like, all of the check marks that we knocked off in regards to accolades, you've never accomplished as a program in any season. So Yeah, I feel like that was a stupid tweet. I said first undefeated Pac-12 season ever, first Pac-12 championship, Sugar Bowl win, national championship appearance, 10 players drafted in the NFL. Something your school has never done in a single season. So yeah, we won some decent things last year for sure. Not to mention beating you twice. So we won some things, buddy.
Won the conference championship on your head too.
On your head
What are you
twice.
talking about?
Head pop. Pick your man's up, dog. Don't worry about me. Pick your man's up.
Oh, look at that. Dylan Johnson just picked up another first down.
Come on. Pick your man's up. Man, hey, rumor has it Evan Williams is still on the ground.
Yeah, I will say on a related note,
Must
a whole
have been
stupid
some bread
vein of
down
tweets
there.
is... Yeah, a whole vein of stupid tweets from the off-season. I was led to believe by a certain segment on Twitter that Will Rogers wasn't good. That's aged well.
Oh.
And that Dylan Gabriel was the truth.
Hey, you know what else?
That's a
You
lie.
know what else we heard? You know what else we heard, Hooligan? We heard we lost so much that we were in a total rebuild. We lost more than Michigan. Oh, Michigan returning 4 first-round players. Oh, there's some clout there. Come on, bro. That's what we had to hear all offseason. How about a stupid offseason?
We heard that we were supposed to be the doormat.
But I mean, you
Big
look at percentage of production, you look at amount of players that have left, and not even that, but we had the same amount of production leave, but they had more players drafted. So that just means the quality not only of the starters but of the depth. Because I think they had a 6th offensive lineman that left and got picked up by the team. So you not only lost starters, you lost depth. So, but I found it funny. A little get back this week. But on Iowa.
Yep, agreed. All right, well, let's go ahead and move along into our new segment, Husky Couture. This time, and I'll go first on this one, and I have to shout out the bookstore in their Dubs collection. Not everything is necessarily something that would end up in my closet, but in particular, the one that I like and that I'm definitely going to cop at some point is the Top Dog T-shirt where it's Dubs in the center, Top Gun style. Looks a little something like that. That's pretty damn fire, and shouts to the pilots and the UW grads that did the flyby this past weekend. That was awesome, and certainly kind of a related piece of Husky Couture and Husky swag that caught my eye, and I'll pick up probably the next time I swing through the bookstore. Who's got one? Something else they've seen that's yeah. Go ahead, JCap.
Simply Seattle again. The Washington overhand script hitch snapback. This guy right here.
Whew.
That's my pick this week.
Bro, I saw that maybe Monday or Tuesday. I can't remember. Maybe Monday. Can't remember where I was at, but I saw somebody walking with that, and I was like, bro, that hat is so hard in person, dog. He was like, hey, man, it's the first UW hat I've bought. I was like, man, you need to buy more, but that one's fire, bro. Yeah, mine, I wouldn't say that I have the merch like readily available, and or the merch is readily available on their website, but I definitely got to shout out ETC, so etc. They have a lot of UW Tacoma collabs. It's a company that's based in Tacoma, so they do a lot more local stuff. Last week I rocked a pair of purple socks with the Husky logo on them. Rocked a pair of purple socks with a Husky logo on them. They have a white pair with Husky logo. But I would just say pay attention for it's rare wear. So for the most part, if you get it, there's probably at max 50 people that have that item. So I would say follow them, pay attention to their drops, their UW Tacoma collabs. You can find some real like rare wear merch as well. So ETC for sure.
Darker Knight, how about you, Wood?
Man, I want to show some love to some.
The jacket you got tonight's popping.
Oh,
bro, bro, come on, bro. What is
it's a little Apex, 1990 sweet little thing I had. But no, I wanted to shout out a local company to show love. Fortunately, it's way too many to choose from, so I wanted to go outside the box this week. But if you guys were to go to slamgoods.com, they actually have a feature of a UW coach's jacket. Try to see if you can. If you can focus on that. But it's a coach's jacket. I know you really can't see it, but it's really cool. It's all black. It's got the angry husky on the back with the big print of the Washington Huskies on the back. Yeah, it's definitely gonna stand out. Definitely an eye catcher. And it's actually nice that we're one of the colleges featured. So check it out.
Yeah, it's got that old, and it's got RW on it. In point of fact, it's got the old school W that we need to go back to. Yeah, that is.
Yeah, that's sick. Yeah,
that is damn good.
That shit hard, right?
Yeah. Yep. But speaking of things that are damn good, I think that's a great segue to talking about a damn good win at Husky Stadium on Saturday night. What did we see that we liked? Kind of the big keys to the game as we saw it. And then, of course, after we discuss the game, we'll talk about we'll give out the purple helmets to players of the game in the various units.
I mean, you got to kind of start, for me at least, with how our interior offensive line played against Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant. I know, Hood, you shared some clips from the game, and then seeing Landon Hatchett push Kenneth Grant halfway across the entire play, and then everyone saw D'Lo put Mason Graham on his back with his legs in the air, like it was a little doing his best fight on with his legs.
Hey, bro,
But,
he just had to show up for that appointment. He had to show up for that appointment. You know what I mean? Pulled up for that appointment. Legs on.
Yeah, and I mean, to have a FCS Portland State transfer put a surefire first round top 10 player on his back with the game on the line is as big an ask as you can make of a player. So shout out to the interior offensive line for sure. But it was really everybody. I mean, they definitely got theirs because, I mean, like I said, you got Mason Graham, Kenneth Grant, Josiah Stewart on the edge. So they got theirs. I'm not going to say they didn't, and not going to say our line pushed them around all day, but they did more than enough, obviously, to win the game. So I think coming into this game, everyone's biggest question mark was how our offensive line was going to fare against them on defense. And they proved it. So.
I'll kind of just go through it by the sides of the ball. Offense, I think we had a little bit of the field goal elements, and not converting touchdowns kind of rear its head again, but converted at a rate that was much better than previous weeks. And you see how that can help you. Simple red zone execution can help you versus the kind of run the ball play defense teams in the Big Ten. Really, really was impressed with the offense. I was really impressed, I would say, with, I don't know if it was a script or not, but with the first two play calls, just came out and set tone. It was like, if you're going to play off, we're going to attack it. You did a out and up on your first play and you threw it. And you got the ball out. A couple things. You got the ball out in under 3 seconds on an out and up. So that let the defensive line know that, you're going to have to get here quick. So you're going to have to, now you're overthinking. I got to get there quick. So that's one thing. Also, too, it lets the DBs know, I don't care how far off you're playing, how soft you're playing, we're going to attack you. And then the second play of the game, you throw Voy in, and he hits a wham block on Grant, and moves him out the way. And then also I think Jonah ran over Will Johnson on the second play of the game. So I think, I was just really excited to see, tone setting plays early. I wouldn't say that we've necessarily gone out of our way to do that, but we had some tone setting plays early, and you can kind of see Jed felt like he was personally in his bag. You saw the double pass, which is crazy because I called it in a Michigan section. And after the play was over, they were like, "Did you just call the double pass?" I mean, bro, yeah. You're if I called it, your coaching staff should have known what was coming up too. But anyway, so just the fact that the offense went out there and was aggressive and did what they wanted to do, and it had less to do with who they were playing, but more about who we had on our team and the mismatches we can take advantage of. It was the first time I kind of seen us play our game versus trying to play to other people. And then defensively, first of all, you don't got Javon. You end up losing Sebastian at a point. And, one thing that we all were concerned about was interior defensive line play. And for them to continuously set the tone, and not only that, but there's this element of this team that's like, we got to meet the standard. And I think you can feel it coming from the players. And I think the first 5 weeks we were trying to feel it from the staff. The players definitely just, that desire on defense was to keep the UW standard of quality defense out there. And then hearing, man, I love it. I love hearing like Steve Belichick talk. Maybe not the monotone element, but just love hearing him talk, man. He just gives praise to everybody else. And then also hearing the fact that he gives so much autonomy to the defensive players to kind of call the plays and also have like a nuance, like one side of the DBs can be doing one thing and the other side can be doing another, but there's still gap sound. Like, first of all, that sounds ridiculously complex. But the fact that they're executing it at this high level just shows that the players know their own strengths and the players know their own weaknesses, and they know they're experienced enough to know how to win games on defense. So just kind of seeing the defense in totality kind of step up. I feel like that those 2 or 3 possessions where Tuttle took over and they took a couple drives to get acclimated. That seemed like it was more coaching staff trying to get acclimated to it more than it was players, because once they went back to what they were doing, they shut Tuttle down too. Once they went back to the orgy game plan, it shut Tuttle down too. So I would just say, like, really seeing the players take a leadership role on defense and shut down the defending national champions, and a run game that, Khalil Mullins was balling. They basically benched Khalil Mullins because Donald was the one who was hitting explosives. He stopped hitting explosives, and then both of them got I would say fleet feet. Both of them didn't know we were gap sound, so both of them had to be looking backside, and it made them fall oftentimes, etc. So that's defensively, and then special teams. Like, obviously we had some early field goal woes and then blocked field goal, but overall it seems like this week and last week special teams has really gotten their stuff together. So it felt like all 3 phases did their job this week for the most part. Special teams can get a little better, but for the most part.
Back off what Hood said. I called it last week. I said it's a game where Jed's gonna have to be in his bag, and I think it's an opponent like Michigan's gonna force you to have to execute play calls, and I think he did that. I think you saw where this offense can go, coming out, knowing they have aggressive corners. Let's start the game with a double move. Knowing that corner's going to bite, knowing that it's not the normal starter. Throw a double move out there, you hit explosive, now you get the secondary on alert, which helps open up the run lanes and everything else. But the biggest takeaway for me was, I think the biggest question marks coming into the year are slowly becoming the strength of this team, and that's our trenches. You can see them getting better and better. And yeah, I know they gave up 4 or 5 sacks in this game, but that's the best defensive line they're going to play all season. So for them to hold up
And
the way they did, they battled. When they did get beat, they would come back and they were opening up huge holes. Like, if you would go back, and I was looking at the game again and looking at the replays of just how they were just able to get in the gap, turn their body, force a man against his will. Especially that late run of Jonah to set up his ultimate touchdown run late in the game. They had those boys.
Which one of his touchdown runs late in the game?
Yeah, they had on the same drive too. They had them boys on skates, and D'Angelo at the end, what he did to Mason Graham, I was ready to pass him some Aunt Jemima, some log cabin, to put on his pancake that he gave him. Mason Graham was painted in purple after that play, which I loved. I thought that was a perfect way you end the game and kind of put your stamp on the game, especially with a dude that likes to talk a lot. But anyway, defensively, oh no, go ahead.
I wonder if Mason still thinks it was a bad day to be a Husky, like his shirt said walking in on Saturday.
Oh man, no, but defensively, I think we did what I expected us to do. I expect us to play dominant defense now. It's not a want to or a hope. I expect that. And you can see the team playing to the standard and exceeding the standard at times. Everyone now, it seems like everywhere you look, everyone's playing with a swagger now. Everyone has a confidence about them. Even if they do give up a play, like we're not out of position to the point where, it's a bust like you'd worry about early in the year and somebody be running wide open. Everyone kind of has each other's back. You see constant communication at all times, even leading up to the snap of the ball. No matter what the offense is doing, you see a lot of guys pointing at the line, knowing where the play is going. Last year, which I noticed a lot of Zotep had that responsibility. But now you see everyone's communicating. Cam Fab's communicating on the back end, making sure the secondary is aligned. Zotep's communicating on the second level. And you can see our defensive tackles, especially Big Sebastian. He's calling out a lot of things. A lot of times when formations are getting aligned and you see motions, you see the defensive tackles bumping over without no one having to tell them anything. Because mentally they know what they're supposed to do on that play. They know the scheme and what's being called. So you can kind of see them just playing together, playing tied as one. And Michigan was struggling to move the ball. You could tell they were frustrated on that side of the ball. They were, especially their offensive line, like they weren't used to getting penetration like that. How many sacks did we almost have if they didn't have a mobile quarterback? That's what we're not thinking of. We're thinking of some of the scrambles they had and, maybe some of the called runs they had. But if you think about it, if they had a little less athletic quarterback, we have at least 4 or 5 sacks in that game. So I'm looking at the effort that our defense is playing with, and I love it. Special teams wise, it's good to see Grady kind of find his footing again, figuratively and literally. But it seems like he got his swagger back at the end, which I loved. I love the confidence Jed kept in him to keep going for it. Where it would have been easy to just, make it a 4-down possession game whenever you get near the red zone. But he went back to steady Eddie. And, we know Grady can do it, and he proved to himself, which I need to see. It's just like a good shooter. You just need to see one go in. So I'm hoping that can carry forward as well.
Yep, absolutely. And I think, to the point on the defense, I think they had 32 rushing yards in the second half. I don't care if you're playing like the worst G5 team, you hold the team to 32 yards on the ground in the second half, you're doing work. And this is, I've been joking about it, some of the week and talking a little trash. And it's like Michigan is the new Iowa, or, Michigan, I think it got said on Split Zone Duo today or in the episode they released were like, Michigan is the good Iowa, or might be the good Iowa. But no, very happy to see that. Certainly, some kind of unexpected contributions, and we'll kind of talk about it in, when we award the purple helmets and people that weren't maybe necessarily expecting but had huge roles in this game. I think the one quibble, if anything, that I had, and I kind of made reference to it in our in the House Washington versus House Iowa series, or the Game of Thrones takeoff kind of graphics that I've been posting on the podcast account, is the clock management. What's that? Is that we coaching staff, the one it wasn't, to give a shout to the podcast of champions, that they call it a piano on the head moment when coaches make decisions that are very questionable, and maybe not a full piano on the head, but at least a Casio keyboard to the head moment, and not calling timeout and losing 13 seconds there at the end of the half that ultimately led to that blocked field goal. It's like, that is at least probably one, if not a couple of shots at either a first down or going to the end zone. You could have put 7 on the board there instead of going for 3. That's basically the only coaching quibble that I have with this game. So I certainly think, to your point, that, Darker Knight, that Jed was in his bag. He was that, and Hood, the point that you made about the Demond Williams throwback pass, that was, it was a great call situationally, great execution by the team, and Cam was not that far from taking that one all the way to the house.
Yeah, he probably should have. If we're being honest, he probably should have, but
or maybe one block kind of missed downfield. But But anything else we want to say about the game as a whole, or should we move into the Purple Helmet Awards for this one?
I had a thought, but I'm trying to think. I don't know. I feel like not like off the back, but there was this really this is a win for the players, man. There has to be a moment where you believe the hype, and I don't know if you guys saw the way that Thaddeus Dixon responded to the game.
I was gonna call out.
Dude was dude was crying, you know what I mean, on the goal line, and it probably had, I don't know, it could have had something to do with last year. It could have
Yeah.
had something to do with personal. But at the end of the day, like, he wasn't crying for none of the other wins, you
Mhm.
know. So like, this was an expression of the process working, and you know, like, it's not a pain. These aren't like, you know, obviously you probably lost people on the way. You're doing it for certain people, etc. But it just felt like, you know, more of an expression of joy. Like, damn, like this work is really like coming to fruition, man. Like, you know, in Michigan, whether they're good or not, it's a great benchmark to the country to be like, Michigan and Ohio State are the only two teams that are winning this conference. They're the only two teams. Like, I don't care if it's an up year or a down year, regardless, these are the benchmarks for the conference. And Washington just beat one of them. So yeah, take a deep breath and fans
Convincingly.
really take it in and understand that you are this. The standard should be winning these these Big Ten conference championships. You know, if we can beat Michigan this year, Michigan in mediocre years was still beating up on the little guys. You know, so this meant a lot to the players, bro, and I can see this trickling in moving forward, especially to the young people, the young kids.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
and
to
credit.
this. Oh, sorry. I was gonna say just no, just to piggyback off what Hood said. Is just the standard's the standard, man. When we get into these games, we've won a bunch of big games. Expect to win. Don't be surprised when we win. You know, don't go into it. You know, we're not the little engine that could. You know what I mean? Like we're a big brand too. And I think showing that to recruits on Saturday and those paying attention and the national audience, they were able to see that. They were to see a big time atmosphere. They were to see two powerhouses, two teams that were playing for the ultimate prize just last year. You know, there's tons of teams that haven't even made the playoff. When you're talking about teams that have been in multiple college football playoffs, you know what I mean? So the consistency is there, the brands are there. And to piggyback off Hood again, what that is, yeah, on his Instagram, I was just looking, his caption while he was, on the goal line sobbing was for my dog. And there was another caption that's like, y'all know who you are. So it was definitely some get back. Felt good. He wanted, the game was bigger than what most thought it was. You know what I mean? There's a lot of guys who left that field with confetti, falling down that, they weren't able to smile and celebrate like that. So they had tears that, were meant for another reason. It was bad. So to have that little bit of joy, I'm sure it brought, tears of joy to a lot of Husky fans that weren't in attendance, that were, and to, show those that, yeah, we belong on this stage.
Yep.
And did you guys? I mean, the little Mississippi boy posted I posted about Will Rogers, bro. Like, he was there too. He got to experience that, and whether he played or not is one element of it. But he got to see, the dudes on the plane. He got to see the dudes on that car ride, on that bus ride, crying or talking about what they could have done, what they should have done, how they should have done it. And I felt like, him throwing up the dubs instead of the four, like and then also too, it was Mason Graham and Christian and Grant talking shit.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't some backups. He's looking their best player on defense in the face and being like, psych, you
No.
thought.
And his
and if you,
emotion
I don't
after
know if you
Grady
know,
hit that kick said a lot too.
right?
Rude.
I don't know if you saw it, but Mason Graham, like the first or second play of the fourth quarter, made a play and he threw up the fours and started looking at Will Rogers. So, like, damn well, like Will embraces this process, dog. Like, Will embraces being a
He's a
dog, and he
dog through
kind of
and
wanted
through.
some of that,
Mm-hmm.
and he wanted some of that get back a little bit too, whether he felt it or not. He was like, my brothers don't like y'all, so I don't like y'all. You know what I mean? And that kind of shows you, like, when kids are deciding to commit to places, you know what I mean? The brotherhood needs to be taken into account first. The people that are going to be supporting you, making sure you're not in trouble, making sure you're on top of your game, like you're getting good grades. Jonah Coleman is a 4.0 student and damn near one of the best running backs in the country. That's the standard that Washington is. And it's, you can beat a team like Michigan while also having high standards on and off the field and having a great, brotherhood and lifelong bonds moving forward. So I know a lot of teams offer that, They say that there are genuine brotherhoods other places, but you can't win at the highest level. You know what I'm saying? And then win at the highest level off the field, and then have that brotherhood at too many places in the country. So I feel like that was an expression this week of the triple threat of a program for sure.
Yep, absolutely. And I was also going to say, I pointed out the quibble that I had with the coaching staff in terms of game management, but I will also give a huge credit and loved the gesture from Coach Fish, awarding the game balls to every player that came back that was a part of that team last year, and it's a sign that Jed freaking gets it. And as I've had conversations on Twitter at length about, like, everybody's like, oh, Washington fans are blaming the refs for their losses. I'm like, no, we were blaming the penalties and some poor coaching decisions for the losses, but saying that penalties were a reason we lost the game is not saying the refs lost the game. But it was, again, and it was something that some of us said last week, is like, those are things that are correctable. Penalties a problem in this game this past Saturday? Nope.
No, sir.
Nope. I think Michigan would say, wait, we got called for penalties? What the hell's going on here?
Man, and we even had that weird little hands to the face too, that extended a scoring drive.
The hands to the face, so, that was hands to the not face at all.
Yeah,
zero face mask.
And I mean, if you don't score on that drive, it's a worse game. Because we would have got good field position on that drive too. So,
yep.
It could have been bad.
Yep. I will say, certainly, let's go ahead and talk purple helmets. And I will say, kind of in going back to that throwback, was a player that made a key play and key block on that. And the guy I'm going to give the purple helmet to on the offensive side of the ball is going to be Kaleki Latu. A lot of a ton of chains moving catches, lowering the shoulder into people, and then, like, he made a nice, he didn't get all of the block to keep Damon clean to throw it back across the field to Cam, but he got enough of him that Damon had the lane to throw it back. So that, for me, the purple helmet on offense goes to Kaleki for some real key plays and catches, and really with the injury to Quentin Moore, and thanks again, refs, for that one. Having Kaleki step up like that and be a real weapon in the pass game, it's just another another player that a defense has to worry about and cover. But how about the rest of you gentlemen? Who gets their laurels on offense? Their laurels on the Purple Helmet Award? I'm
going to go with Giles Jackson. He's played Michigan. This is his third time playing Michigan as a member of the Huskies, and he finally got one. Obviously the long seam throw that he got, the touchdown, but then the third down that he got, and juke Will Johnson out his boots to convert for first down. That was probably one of my favorite plays of the whole game when I went back and did the rewatch, because he caught that on Hill and then juked. I think it was Will for sure, and then I think Jayshon Barham was coming up on the backside too. So three of their best players in their back seven all got the work from Giles on one play. So I'm gonna give Giles mine.
I'm gonna be a little unconventional this week. I'm gonna give mine to Jed Fish. This most complete game that we've seen him call. I think he stepped up tremendously, and not only infusing confidence in the offense, but Will in particular, where there's just a confidence in a marriage that you're kind of slowly seeing come together, where he's giving them more autonomy at the line, and it's really paying off. And I think we would have hit and been even more explosive. There was a couple lapses on the offensive line, even though they did their thing that allowed some penetration, which threw off some timing, but he was just in his bag calling plays.
Probably saw some of the noise on Twitter saying give play calling duties to Brennan Carroll.
Yeah, and I will say on that note, like, I love the fact that he didn't overthink the situation where we had that touchdown not called back, but disallowed, or said, oh, he was short of the line to gain, and that he went I'm going to give it to my 5'9", 230-pound battering ram tailback. And once again, Jonah proved he's got up.
What I always said on this podcast, since especially while Jed's been here, players over plays, right? One of the biggest calls in the game was that deep shot to Denzel that called a pass interference. Don't think about scheme and do all that. Just throw it to your weapons, and they'll let them win the game for you. That's just a clear example of your best against my best. I'm throwing it up there. Let my guy try to go make a play. If you can't cover, guess what? It's still a first down.
That was Will Johnson's biggest impact play on that game. They didn't throw at him many times, but he definitely made his presence felt
they
there.
threw at him enough.
Jonah Coleman got his.
I was going to say Jonah Coleman made a big impact on Will Johnson on the second play of this game.
We're talking about Will Johnson, but Jair Hill got his fucking ass beat the whole game.
Big Barry, boy. they were the best cornerback duo according to PFF. Anyway, I ain't gonna about to make a terrible joke about PFF. We're gonna keep. Nah, man. It's something QB11 said. I'm not gonna repeat it. I was initially gonna give it to Max McCree, and that was solely because I personally felt like Josiah Stewart was going to interrupt our pass game. I kind of felt like the interior O-line would figure out Grant and Graham. Like, they would figure out how to game plan around and be, successful without. You can game plan around D tackles. You kind of saw it versus Texas. And you can kind of game plan around D tackles, but you can't really game plan around solid edges. It's kind of tough. And Max did his thing. I think he gave up 1 sack. You know what I mean? And that's good enough for a guy like Stewart. But I'm actually going to make it an obvious one for once. I'm going to say Denzel Boston. And mainly because obviously you had Jonah forcing him to respect the run, but mainly because a lot of his targets weren't hidden. A lot of his targets weren't some specialty routes. Like, double moves are normal. You know what I mean? And to be honest with you, double moves are normal for a corner to be disciplined on and have eye discipline on and have footwork for it. They train for that all the time. I don't know if you see it, all them videos corners do. They train for double moves often, footwork, hips, etc., eyes. And the fact that he wasn't doing nothing special and beating quality DBs. Beat Will Johnson on the slant and go. Beat, I would say beat him because it was a penalty. Beat him on the deep pass, forced a penalty there. And then just, turn Sugar Hill into Splendor Hill at the end of the day. So that
and beat his man on the route that Will threw just a little too far, before the blocked field goal, the route to the end zone. Denzel was open. Will just threw it a little too far on that route to the pylon, the back corner.
And the other targets were on a former UW target who we would have wanted at a point. You know what I mean? Jair Sugar Hill, who like I mentioned earlier, looked real sugar free. So we definitely. I wouldn't say but Denzel definitely exposed that back end. So.
Pause.
Come on. Exposed. Look, Will Mason Graham did it by himself. My boy was straight. He said, "Take me, D'Angelo."
I will say, while we're giving Denzel his credit, shouts to our UW Twitter great UW Animal for coining the phrase Boston TD
good.
Party in regards to Denzel. That's
fire.
Yeah, that's fire.
It's always good to have UW Animal back making videos, and it was
leading the country or leading the Big Ten in touchdowns.
Leading the Big Ten. He's second to Nick Nash down at San Jose State by 1 score.
Nick Nash is San Jose State. They just be throwing it up to him. So, but
they force
basically all they're doing. But let's go ahead and move along into, or actually, we've got to talk on defense and we got to give the defensive purple helmets. I'm
gonna let y'all go first because everybody gonna have the same one.
Cameron for Becky Lannon. Let's go.
Yep.
It's kind of hard to not pick him. I mean, that interception was probably the loudest I've screamed at a sporting event in my life.
I didn't scream. There was something that I was almost on the verge of screaming, influenced by years of being in a GC with you and Coach V. A particular Filipino treat.
dish of choice.
I almost yelled it, but I'm like, I'm not going to do that because the thousands of people around me are going to be like, what is he yelling? What?
Same continent.
But I will say I agree with you on Cam Fab and a number of key plays that he made in this game. In addition to that one, I would say probably if I was going to go with somebody other than Cam Fab, it's somebody that caused the other turnover. Had that key wham block, and that's Voit Tanufi.
I felt bad for Todd Blackledge because he had to call
Bruh.
was it
Voit
Tanufi, Logan Sakapolu, and Cam Fabiculanen.
Tuputala be getting him too.
Tuputala got him too.
Alfonso.
You see, he just started saying 97 after a while.
And then when we were on offense, he didn't even say D'Angelo's name. He just goes, the center, number 75.
In the group chat, they were like, man, bro, Michigan got beat by a whole bunch of Samoans. I was like, I mean, kind of.
How he was pronouncing it, you would think there was more than one. He was like, T-T-I-L-E. I was like, both of them?
Oh, God.
Jeez.
Twins on this team?
Two centers. That's crazy.
That's tough, man. Y'all basically took the two primaries. I'll go with see, y'all made it tough because those two definitely you could tell they played last year. They were pissed. Cam Broussard had a really good game. The corners were non-existent because they didn't really need to do nothing. Sagapolu had a solid game. Defense is tough. What I will say is I'm gonna give it to Kamori, only because off the top of my head, outside of having these significant impact plays and turnovers, off the top of my head, I can think of the Khalil Mullins play that was stopped short. And I could just think, Kamori could have easily let Khalil Mullins kind of hit the ground and fall forward. But multiple times I saw, obviously including this time, multiple times I saw him as the tackle assist or the cleanup, the rallier, the first or second guy to the ball when he was in there. But the specific play I'm thinking about, Mullins' knee wasn't down, and if he would have just been allowed to fall forward and have access to putting the ball over, he would have been able to. But Kamori showed up. Dude's got half his torso off the ground. Sometimes you just give up on that play. But he grabbed his torso, grabbed the ball so he couldn't extend it, and it ended up being short. So I would just say those small little fighting for inches plays definitely from Kamori House for sure. You guys got the two big guns. I definitely feel like I had to shout out, some small play for sure.
Hooligan, you took mine because the boy is definitely going to get my purple helmet. But if I had to give it to someone else, it was someone that I shouted out last week who I said needed a big game and needed to show up, and that's Cam Broussard. If you notice, you didn't hear the safeties' names a lot in this game. So they did what they needed to do in the middle of the field. Colson got a handful of catches, but nothing explosive. Wasn't worried about him breaking open.
Catch.
Yeah, nothing after the catch. Them covering the harder flats, Paul, on some of those plays and eliminating a lot of those swing routes and those swing screens that Michigan like to do. I just think the safeties were on their stuff. Could have had another pick if Cam's looking at the quarterback and not looking to light up the running back and the ball whistles by his helmet. In the first quarter, he could have had another pick. But I love the way he played. And the safeties as a whole, you didn't really hear much. McHale as well. So I think they played the best game of the year.
Zoe had a similar play too, where
that slant.
First of all, this dude is playing at a ridiculous level. This dude started off on the edge, right? Looking inside, looking at the ball. At the snap of the ball, snaps his head back, chucks the tight end 17, and then lets him go, moves on to Colson Loveland, and the ball, as he's turning his head, the ball whistles by him. Bro guarded 3 different people in the same play. You know what I mean? All within a span of 10 steps or less. highly impressive. And just a simple shout out, not one player balled out, but they did it as a collective. The interior defensive line, you got Javon Parker going down. You got Sebastian Valdez at a point ended up being limited. And I think preseason, if we all were like, man, we lose this person, this person, this person, this person, Durfee was extremely limited as well. But a guy like Jacob Lane going in and making
Critical
an instant
stop.
impact.
Hit a key critical stop.
Key critical stop.
Arlenius Davis too.
Alenius Davis getting some stops. And then also, like, I don't know if you guys probably did, but a lot of the deflected passes at the line. You know what I'm saying? You could speak to Cam Fab on one of those, but Alenius had one. Carson Bruner, I believe, had one.
Brother Lynch.
There's a couple other brother. Deshaun Lynch had a couple of them too. So we were getting our hands up, and honestly, this might have been Jacob Bannis' best game as a Husky, which is crazy to think about, but just kind of holding it down and leading that front up there, when all the talent kind of was getting hurt.
Yeah, well, and that's something that's also going to be something that's going to be a key piece of helping contain Iowa. We're not quite to our game preview, but Cade is not exactly a giant in the pocket either, and he is very susceptible to passes being knocked backwards up in the air. So that's certainly something that bodes well for us going forward. But let's go ahead and move on into our big predictions. JCap has got the standings update.
Yes. We got pretty much everyone tied last week, with the exception of Hood. We were 6-2. Everybody. Hood went 5-3 last week. DJ is still leading.
But you
the
would have been
pack.
6-2 if you hadn't flipped your pick to Michigan.
Yeah, that's true.
After listening to DJ.
We would have all been 6-2 last week if you stuck with UW. But I mean, it is what it is. But DJ still got the lead. Got the lead by 1 over Hooligan right now at 34-8 on the season so far for DJ. Pulling up. I got 30-12 right now. Hooligan 1 game behind DJ at 33-9.
I don't gamble.
Doing that well.
I suck at it. I'm a risk taker. Take Purdue. Give me Purdue.
Wouldn't do that this week.
Shit. Anyway.
All right, but let's go ahead and talk about it. First game is a Friday night tilt in College Park, Maryland. Northwestern traveling in to play the Terrapins. Maryland is a 10.5 point favorite. Over and under is at 45.5. Northwestern did show some signs of life on offense against Indiana last week. What do we think?
I got Maryland. I don't think it's by 10. I think Maryland is a 10-plus point better team. But the fact that that's a team that could potentially that lost to Michigan State, you can see identity isn't there. So I don't think they cover the 10. I think it's a close game. I do think they get I think this is really low scoring, so I don't think they get the point.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think Maryland wins. I don't think they cover either. I think it's probably like a 6-7 point win to me. So I'll go with Maryland.
I see Maryland winning. I think this game is going to be played in the high teens, low 20s. So not sure about the over-under getting there, but yeah, I see Maryland winning.
Maryland is baffling. Talent is there for sure.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I think I agree. I think it's the under. I think Maryland wins comfortably, but I think it's still not a cover. I think that there's just a clear difference in talent between the two teams, and certainly with Ty Felton at receiver for Maryland, they've got the pieces on offenses that they're going to be able to basically, I think, do somewhat similar to what we had, the game that we had with Northwestern, where the offense is effective enough to put them ahead comfortably, and they don't necessarily need to really push the envelope to try and, light the scoreboard up. They can kind of put it on ice and relax, and ultimately, I think, I agree with y'all that it's a Maryland win, but not a cover. We'll move to the other 9:00 game on Saturday morning, because the first, we're all going to be watching one 9 o'clock game on Saturday. But the one that's happening concurrently is the other UW. This time it's Wisconsin traveling to Rutgers. 9 o'clock game on Big Ten Network. Rutgers is a 2.5-point favorite with the over-under at 41.5.
I got Wisconsin, and I'll say the points are like spot on, but I'll go like right above the points, like by 5 or less, like right above the points. But I definitely got Wisconsin. Yeah, I think Rutgers is good. I think they're well coached. I do think it's odd, man. Like Wisconsin's so up and down, but yeah, I trust Wisconsin this week. I think Rutgers is gonna have a point where they do kind of go on like a loss run, and I think this might be the start of it. You know, what Nebraska last week, I think Wisconsin this week, and maybe in the next couple weeks.
I mean, Wisconsin did show some signs of life on offense this past week. Granted, it was against Purdue, but. Yeah, I'm going to agree with you there. I think Wisconsin goes into Piscataway and gets this one. I think it's probably actually the under. But I think it's probably honestly, I think it's like a field goal game or a 4-point game, a 24-20, 23-21.
Rutgers looked bad last week, bro.
I mean, granted, the runs were swirling in Lincoln like crazy, I guess, during the second half of that game. But
don't they run the ball?
Who? Well, yeah, no.
Rutgers.
I see. Yeah, I can see. Actually, you know what? I think Rutgers wins a low-scoring game. I think both offenses struggle because, Tyler Van Dyke ain't there, and I don't trust Wisconsin if they have to throw the ball. And they're on the second.
Malusi's gone.
Yeah. And I think Monangai does just enough. So I have Rutgers win the low-scoring game in the teens.
I will echo that. I have Rutgers 17-13.
It's a great score.
Yep. And for the record, Tugs took Rutgers in the chat, and DJ did as well. In that first game, DJ took Maryland and Tugs took Maryland. So, yeah. And I will amend mine and say that I'm still going to stick with Wisconsin, but in saying that it's a 23-21 or a 24-20 game, that actually would be the over. So, in complete agreement. Doing math.
Like 5 points or less under the or over the over or under the.
Yeah, I agree with you. Moving on to the kind of probably the last undercard fight, or the primary undercard fight before the main event, Saturday evening. Penn State traveling into the LA Coliseum to play USC. Penn State is a 4.5-point favorite on the road, over under at 50.5. This one's on CBS and Paramount Plus. What do we think about this one?
And Penn State wins easily. I think they'll just dominate USC. I think it's a game for roughly 3 quarters, and then the run the game just takes off in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, this is probably the hardest game. I think preseason, I would have taken like a team like LSU to beat USC, but USC wins that game. And preseason, I would have taken USC to beat Penn State. I just don't know what USC brings to the table consistently. Like, there's a game where they're playing decent defense, and then they're not. And then there's a game where they're running the ball well, and they're not. And there's a game where they're passing the ball well, and they're not. It's just like they have no identity. They have no consistency. There's no, like, winning culture. It's almost just like, we're here to hoop. They just are playing pickup football every week. Obviously, decently coached, but it doesn't seem like there seems like any type of game plan, and like winning game plan that modifies based on the opponent. It's kind of like we're going to do our thing, and but there needs to be some version of modification to the process. I do think that I think their running back, Penn State's running back stable is a wee bit overrated. They're a little slower. It's just more of like a grind out type of situation. Their offensive line is big and strong. Aller's been putting in work, and their receivers seem like they've gotten some rhythm. What have their DBs been tested? USC is gonna definitely test that. Like outside of Winston, what's Penn State really got back there? So I think this is gonna be a really, really tough game. I'll pick Penn State in a close one. You got to think they struggled versus like a team like Bowling Green. And then last week? I don't remember who they played. But watching the game, it was a little bit of a struggle to score last week too. So if USC gets up early, it could be tough. But I definitely think Penn State controls the pace, wins the game. I'm gonna say by a possession or less. And what was the point?
Penn State's a 4.5 point favorite. Over under is 50.5.
Yeah, I think it's under the 50.5. And I think Penn State covers.
A note too, so far this season, Big Ten teams who've traveled 2 time zones are winless.
That's hella random.
It's random, but just
very
food for thought.
This is not
Someone's
Penn
gonna break
State's
the streak.
road game.
The first to play in the
West Coast.
Pac-12.
I mean, and also we heard James Franklin crying like a little about it. So
you meet the run.
He's like James Franklin.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll go Penn State as well.
I hate Penn State, man.
Man, we haven't even gotten to the difficult one to pick for rooting interest purposes. But no, give me Penn State. I think you said they're a 4.5 point favorite.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, give me Penn State to cover, but I'll take the over. I'll say it's like a 27. No. Shit.
This is gonna be game of the week, bro.
You can score points on USC, so don't think it's
USC always plays in the best games of the week, bro. Like, it doesn't matter who the opponent is. It's freaking stupid.
I'll say 31-24 Penn State.
Yep, that's a great game for USC.
I can see that.
That is USC.
Yep.
That's on brand.
Yep, I think so, too. I think it's in that. I think it's Penn State wins, covers, over, close, or if not, the over pretty close to it. I think it's probably 34-23.
Yeah.
Feels like a game where, like, I think USC is going to be able to move the ball, score, but may not capitalize and be able to punch it in against Penn State's defense.
The red zone. Mm-hmm.
The red zone and Penn State's running game, while it hasn't, I mean, I guess Nick Singleton was out for kind of a weird reason or unexpectedly that, like, Franklin expected him to play last week and then he didn't. So, keep an eye on that one. But I do think that trend that you were mentioning, Darker Knight, gets flipped in this one.
The defensive line versus the offensive line in this matchup is about to be for Penn State's defensive line versus Blood.
USC's offensive line is already one of the higher in the nation at giving up pressure, so it could be a long game for Millimov.
Them boys dynamic up front at Penn State.
I think this is one. I think we'll move on to another one that I think is going to be unanimous, and that's Purdue traveling to number 23, Illinois. Illinois is a 22.5 point favorite, over under 48.5. Yep.
I penciled everyone in for Illinois already. I'm not even giving that
thought. Wins covers.
Locomotive going the wrong way.
Locomotive going. They ain't boiling, they simmering right now. It's coming. They on heat medium.
They on coal.
They're the Purdue watched pot never boils makers.
They're the simmer. They're the simmer makers right now. They kind of.
That might be giving them too much credit, Hood.
Yeah, they ain't
tepid might be about the best they can manage.
Somebody get a thermometer.
For the record, in the previous game, DJ picked Penn State. Tugs actually took USC.
I should have
to pull the upset on that one.
I want to USC so bad.
Yeah.
I want
it's going to be hurt more when he looks at the score of this game.
I want to pick USC
Illinois
so
wins,
bad.
covers. Move on. All right. The heavyweight tilt. Number 2 Ohio State traveling to Autzen to play a 4:30 game on NBC and Peacock. Shouts to Tugs and DJ. Buckeyes are a 3-point favorite with the over-under at 53.5.
Can they
Oregon
both
on
lose?
fraud watch for real.
Oregon on what?
On fraud watch.
I say 53. 53 is
That's tough.
high 20s. I will say it's gonna be over 53. This is gonna be a like a low 30s, mid 30s for the winner, and maybe like a low 20s, mid 20s for the loser. I definitely got Ohio State. I think Ohio State is just being honest. I think Ohio State is the most complete team in the country. I think not only that, like you can be complete, like, but you have to have some form of an identity. And no matter whether or not Ohio State is playing good or bad on offense or defense, they stick to the same shit. You know what I mean? Like they have an identity, so they're going to continue to do what they're doing and maybe adjust a little bit, but they're going to continue to do what they're doing. Oregon doesn't seem like they have a consistent way on defense to play you. They don't seem like they have a consistent way on offense to score. So I think, you running into I kind of think this is going to be a defensive, like who can take advantage of the other person's defense. And I find there's a lot more mismatches on Oregon's defense than there are on Ohio State's defense. I don't think Ohio State's defense is super fast, but I think they are a little bit more talented and experienced at the highest level. I think they're a little bit more pros. I think they're more pro-minded. Whereas I think Oregon is talented and athletic or experienced, but they're not necessarily, in my opinion, like a ton of pros on their back end. So yeah, I personally feel like Ohio State's offense like really shreds this defense. I even think it may be a situation where, first half Ohio State's up by a decent amount. Up by 3 possessions, 17, 21, 20, something like that. And Oregon kind of scratches and claws, but Oregon hasn't shown me a run game to kind of make Ohio State respect even the short passing game. Jordan James, I think, had his first explosive run last week. He's been kind of steady Eddie. I'm a bang off a 12. I'm a bang off a 8. I'm a bang off a 7. I'm a bang off a 10. But I think last week was his first time banging off a genuine explosive run, I think for 20 or more. So I just don't think that continues versus a team like this. So I think it's Ohio State very comfortably. I think they're going to have to, I think maybe early on, like they learn a lot about Autzen. You know what I mean? Like, oh shit, like, okay, some false starts, some getting started slow, but that identity kicks in and leans on Oregon. So,
but it's also not. I mean, it is a team that has been through. They're players that have been in loud environments before. Quinshon Judkins played in the SEC. Obviously, the returners that have been at Ohio State for their entirety of their careers, they played in big games before. Autzen is one of the louder environments in college football. It is. I'll give them their plaudits, but I tend to agree here, and I think the big thing is that, like, yeah, Oregon started to look like they've gotten things figured out the last couple of weeks, but checking, real quick, looking at who Oregon has, turned it on against. Do we think Michigan State's any good?
No.
Is UCLA any good?
No.
Oregon
State's not even good.
Oregon State's not good, and they got absolutely Oregon State's probably one of the teams most depleted by the transfer portal in the country. And the last team that they played that had a honest to goodness good running game was Boise State. And what did Ashton Jeanty do to that defense?
Went crazy. And they don't even have a passing
special. Yeah, granted, exactly. I mean, Madsen's okay, and they have decent tight ends and like situational role players, but the point is, you got Ohio State rolling in with Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins, and Will Howard can run as well. That's going to cause some problems. Yes, Oregon's defense is athletic, and then you put those factors into play, and then you look at what Ohio State has at wide receiver. Jeremiah Smith is a freak. Emeka Egbuka is really good, and they've got Carnell Tate, they've got solid tight ends. Like, it's one of those situations where, to some extent, you can't cover everybody, and unless you have the best defense in the country, and Oregon, you do not.
There's going to be a lot of one-on-one tackling, Hooligan.
Mm-hmm.
And there was somebody made the point that Ohio State has the most sixth-year players in the country.
Yep.
Anybody remember who had the most sixth-year players in the country last year?
Washington. Second place was Michigan. Voila!
Yeah. Ohio State wins this one. I think Oregon's going to have some of their moments, but I just don't see, like, could Oregon win this game? Yes, absolutely. But it's a situation until I see it, I'm not going to believe it. And that was the case, like, you know, to your point, I stayed on the optimistic side with my Husky prediction last week, but I was very much in that camp that's like, until I see, you know, Washington clean up penalties and
then I got to see it, yeah.
And we saw it. And so, like, I'll give Oregon their credits if they win this football game, but I've got to see it. I will say, I do want to point out, it's funny, I'm on the ESPN site as we're going through the predictions. There's quite a wide discrepancy in terms of available ticket prices for games in the conference this week. This game is the one that is the most expensive if you want to go to it with tickets as low as $205 right now. The Friday night matchup between Northwestern and Maryland, if you happen to be in College Park or the vicinity, you could find a ticket for as low as $2.
Before taxes and fees.
That is wild.
Yeah.
Date night.
Can't give those tickets away, dude.
Cheaper than the value menu at the Utah Hockey Club games this year. But anybody, JCap and Darker Knight, I don't think we got your predictions on this one yet.
I don't need to go into too much detail. I'm going to have a much shorter explanation here. Jeremiah Smith and Emeka Egbuka are going to have Jabbar Muhammad in hell. And Ohio State wins by 3 touchdowns. Fuck them.
Yeah.
Breaking the box.
Yeah.
Yep.
I've seen Dan Lannon play in, at least 3 big games, and yeah, I'm not impressed. I think, yeah, exactly. Come down to the trenches, and as talented as they want to say Oregon's this and Oregon, they're just not physical. Either side of the ball. So I don't want to hear none of that about nothing. They're not going to be able to push Ohio State around, and they're not going to be able to get enough penetration to impact the passing game. I think you're going to see Chip Kelly run Will Howard the way he's never run him before because he hasn't had to this year. And that's Will Howard's kind of superpower, is his ability to use his legs for him to be one of the bigger guys, 6'4", 6'5", 235. So to be able to lean on them, especially in short yardage situations, show them a lot of big boxes where you go empty, but you got just Will and the running back, and you could go, either double tight or bring an extra offensive lineman, just maul them. I just think it's one of those Chip Kelly games that you remember. He was like, he just really bludgeoned Oregon. And that's just going to set up one-on-one opportunities outside where it's going to be, barbecue chicken. So
how many injuries does Oregon fake in this game?
I don't know. They're going to have to put at least 7 in the box because you got 2 running backs where he can just give it he's just going to give the ball to him and have him switch off. I mean, they can get a first down, every other play. So you're going to have to do that. It's going to open them up for the passing game. I think it's one of those games that Hood said where Ohio State gets out big, Oregon kind of starts to come back a little bit to kind of make it interesting. And then Ohio State just maybe gives them a touchdown at the end where it's just like the nail in the coffin. So I got Ohio State winning 41-31.
Okay, that's a solid score. One thing I'm not going to do is I'm not going to diminish Oregon's front. That's one thing I'm not going to do. Like,
they're talented.
Jordan Birch and Mateo have been playing arguably as 2 of the best edge players in the country. Interior has been a relative rotation of like high ceiling players who have like kept this like really solid floor of performance. I think it's more so of their linebackers that really can't tackle well outside of like was it Belcher or whatever. They just can't. They can't. And Tatum, Tuioti, he flies around, but just there, I don't see how you're gonna tackle in space outside of the defensive line, like right, moving to the second and third levels. Their primary goal is going to be to tackle in space, and we saw versus Action GT is something they struggle to do. Is they struggle to wrap up. They're it's a lot of that, like lack of a better way to express it, but it's kind of like just a lot of hit sticking. Like they try to throw their bodies and their shoulders at people and things like that, and they're trying to go for these highlight plays, and they're not wrapping up. That was a lot of their struggles in their first few games, is they weren't wrapping up. And I feel like with a guy like Quinshawn, you have to wrap up. I think for the most part, I think they clog lanes for Travion. Travion don't have the best vision. He kind of has to have a clear path. It's going to be murky at the line of scrimmage because I do trust Oregon's defensive line. I think Ohio State's defensive line hasn't really played anybody yet, and this is going to be their first test and maybe even potentially only test of the season. So I do think that the front, the defense line of Oregon and the offense line of Ohio State, I think that's going to be a nice little wash of some fun NFL versus NFL. And I think Quinshawn's the only one that kind of eats out of that. I don't think Travion eats out of that, but I think it's going to be Ohio State's passing game. Who's tackling Carnell? Carnell's not a super yak guy, but who's tackling Jeremiah? Is it Cam Alexander, who's 5'10", 5'11"? Brandon Johnson is my favorite DB on their team, on their starting unit, but he's more of a slot kind of guy. So he's going to be taken out of the game playing Emeka. Is he going to be able to tackle Emeka in open field? That's probably one of the matchups of the game. We already know Jabbar is afraid to tackle anybody, so he ain't gonna be on Jeremiah. They're gonna have to hide Jabbar. You know what I mean? So I just feel like the mismatches are primarily in the secondary, Ohio State runs a lot of short routes, come up and tackle us. I just think that's what Oregon struggles, and I think so. You have a lot of explosives that are like, oh, missed tackle, I'm gone. Jump ball, catch, missed tackle, I'm gone. So I think that's where
if you miss a tackle on Jeremiah, he's housing it.
It's a wrap. Emeka at this point, too, because you have to kind of man a little bit this game. You know what I mean? And that's not a man DB room, bro.
I think, to hear what you were saying, I've watched all the Oregon games for the most part, and I think what they try to do is they play a bunch of mixture of fronts, but they're one of those teams that they're good in certain aspects, but they're not elite in anything. So you're going to see, like you said, Tail and those guys, yeah, they did what they had to do against the competition they played against, but when they're playing a bigger level of competition, I'm curious what changes. Because this isn't a team where you need to mix fronts and do all that. Like, you need to have a steady game plan when you're playing against Ohio State's offensive line, who, next to Texas and a few other teams, is up there for one of the better offensive lines in the country. So it's not like they have glaring weaknesses you're going to be able to take advantage of. And then
who's Ohio State? Who's Ohio State played so far?
That's what I'm saying.
So
this
is
both sides.
Both of them.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
both of their first.
That's what I'm saying. So to know, I'm saying, because we're talking about how seasoned Ohio State is. So I'm taking that into account on their offensive line going into this game. So yes, while Oregon has done what they needed to do those first, few games on the defensive line, I've watched them pack 7, 8 guys in the box and still Ashton Genty and gash them because poor angles, missed tackles, missed assignments. They still play undisciplined on defense. They fly around, but they are not disciplined at all. There's tons of cutback lanes. Yes, and so I do believe you're going to see a twin punch with Travion and Quinshawn, because Quinshawn is going to beat them up in the power game, and then Travion only needs the crease, and nobody's going to catch him. So you got to worry about the running game, because Chip Kelly likes to throw wrinkles in there when you least expect it, especially in the screen game as well. So he's going to find ways to get his guys the ball no matter what you do. And if you can't tackle going into the game, it's going to be a problem.
Yep. And for the record, DJ took Oregon, Tugs took the Buckeyes.
The only advantage, and I tell Oregon people this straight up, the only advantage you got is you at home, bro. There's nothing on the field where
crowd has to impact it.
Where you're the better team. You're not the better team. Preseason, I would have definitely made this a 50-50 game, but it's more, it's definitely got some 70-30 vibes now, in my opinion. Like I think Ohio State is a team to beat. And if in the country, and if there aren't teams that either get healthy or figure it out, like Texas and
I gotta,
Georgia,
man.
I think it's pretty clean.
I gotta see Dylan Gabriel throwing tight windows too against the secondary. I just don't know if he could
That's
do
not
it.
happening though.
I just don't know if he could do it.
It's the wrong team. It's the wrong team to try that with, you know. And then also too, like this is the first year, and this is the last thing I'll say on Oregon, but this is the first year where Oregon's running back isn't some bona fide star, you know, or somebody that they can just lean on and like, okay, we got a shitty passing game or a mediocre passing game. We just gonna run for 1,700 with this guy. The backup gonna have 800, and the other guy gonna have 200. Like that's just not. It's just not a explosive, or sorry, it's not a reliable running attack or rushing attack. You know, so I think this is the first time where they, you know, don't have something to really, really, really lean on, and their passing game is so.
Hit
I'm
and miss.
squatting on everything, bro. I'm squatting and hitting everything. So yeah, I don't even think this is a close. I'm doing the benefit of the doubt, but I don't think this is a bad matchup more than anything.
Yep. And then finally, I think one we can go pretty quick on before we get into the Washington Iowa preview. 6 o'clock on Big Ten Network. Minnesota going into the Rose Bowl to play UCLA. Minnesota's a 5-point favorite. Over under on this one is 40.5. I'll go first and I'll be fast. Minnesota wins, covers, but it's the under. Yeah, I mean, UCLA is bad. Minnesota is not great. Old strategy.
Get the Sean Foster suit up.
He said you would. He wrote it down too. JCap spit.
I did.
It's a joke. He said, I gotta stick with it now. He said
both DJ and Tug said Minnesota for the record.
Gotcha. Fuck, now I gotta stick with him. Heard the pin click and everything.
Wrote that shit down quick. Clip it. He said, give me UCLA.
We're gonna take UCLA. Fuck.
All right.
They gotta win one of these.
No, they don't.
No, they don't.
Minnesota going back-to-back against the LA schools?
Yeah.
Be kind of funny, actually.
They're going to beat USC.
Yeah.
They already did.
They beat USC
last week.
They got UCLA, yeah.
But, all right, let's talk Washington and Iowa.
Let's talk them.
In terms of the numbers, Iowa is a 3-point favorite. It's over-under is at 42.5.
So it's a push game.
Essentially a push. I mean, I think we all know the keys to the game were to contain to the best of our ability Caleb Johnson. Iowa, as always, has a couple of pieces at tight end that are solid players and that can move the chains for him a little bit, but there's still Cade McNamara at quarterback. Caleb Johnson is good. Is good though.
That's a big boy.
And fast.
That's a big boy. You got to bring your lunch pail. On the season, like Jonah Coleman's forced 37 missed tackles, he's forced 35, something like that. So he's right there.
It's very different though. It's
he's a different type of running back.
It's so weird.
He forces it, yeah. He's just a tank, man.
I mean, yeah. First of all, I got Washington, and I got Washington by at least 2 possessions. I think we have a nice little turnover game. Iowa's vaunted defense is not the same at all. They really relied on last year. Their defensive line had a lot more success, and it's the same defensive line. Their defensive line had a lot more success, like getting to the passer, getting pressures, and those types of things to force kind of errant throws. And their DBs, you know, obviously without Cooper, this is the same group. And they're not playing well this year because the defensive line's not getting that same pressure, you know? And so these quarterbacks are having a lot of time to be able to pick. Owen Schulte and Xavier Wampa are slow. Watching them last year, they weren't as slow, and I don't know what they did this year, but they're very slow at safety. Sebastian Castro or bust, or that's a lie. Sebastian Castro is their only, like, real versatile guy that's going to be able to maybe follow Giles. Jamari Harris is very, very good. I think that's an NFL corner. But compared to the talent we have, I just don't. I think him versus Denzel. I think we definitely win that matchup. I just don't think they're able to. They're going to be able to stop our offense. I feel like we have a solid amount of luck or execution when it comes to our red zone woes this game. And then to the Caleb, just on defense, man, I understand we have interior defensive linemen struggling. I don't know about Zach Durfee's availability, so I do feel like we're going to give up a few explosives. But just watching Caleb, you got to think, man, like I watched all of last year and preseason based on just seeing Caleb preseason. I was saying Caleb was going to be Iowa's breakout player. And, I didn't think it was necessarily going to look like this, but you can see this. You can definitely see this on film. He just had RB2, RB3 carries. He's not super elusive. He's not super elusive. He's wildly patient. And then when he finds a crease, he hits it. And he has a steady pace when he's running. So it's tough to kind of keep up with him and stuff like that. So I will say, like, if you watch him, he's a longer strider for a running back. He's got a forward lean, but he's a longer strider. Just don't get him started. Let him pat those feet like Khalil Mullins did, because Khalil Mullins was super fast in the open field
More
too,
explosive,
and
yeah.
pulling more explosive, and I don't know about that now, but was pulling away. He was pulling away from people, but we didn't allow him to get started because we were gap sound. Right, that's what people are struggling with Ashton Jeanty. That's what people are struggling, obviously, with Caleb Johnson is. He's doing kind of the Le'Veon Bell. Wait. Oh, here's a crease. Or if you watch all their plays, bro, he's untouched before there's 10 yards. The broken tackle shit is for the birds. I ain't hearing none of that. If there's one person I'm claiming as I saw his talent before anybody else did, it's Caleb Johnson. So I've definitely been watching this kid. And, he has to get ahead of steam. They run toss plays, and he's 15 yards down the field before he's even got anybody he's got to make a move on. That's not what he's running into when he's playing us. You know what I'm saying? So it's just hard for me to see him getting these clear. When you watch the games, he has clear running lanes. So it's their offensive line, even though they're not necessarily very good. They call great plays for Caleb. So I think we shut that shit down. We're gap sound. You got guys like Carson. You got guys like Kamora. You got guys like Zota. They've not run into linebackers like us. I get they got good linebackers in practice, but them two linebackers is fat. Anyway, I think we definitely take advantage of them in the pass game too, and get them linebackers moving in coverage. Jay Higgins got a belly that hang over his fucking drawstring. Jackson too, fat. They both fat. Move slow. Make them run sideline to sideline. Slow defensive line. Powerful, slow. Let's use speed. This game blouses, bro. I'm gonna say 2 possessions, something like 31-17 or 28-17, something like that. 28-17. I'll go 28-17.
To Hood's point, watching them, especially, from the second half of the Iowa State game to Ohio State, you just see that defense got exposed. At the running, but their linebackers are not good in coverage. Higgins is solid. He's more. I trust him more against the run than I would just dropping back.
Fat.
But they don't trust their corners. They play a lot of cover 2 with safety high shells because they know they cannot run with it if you have an elite wide receiver on the outside. And they like to load the box and hope and force you to make a mistake. They let you take everything underneath, and then they like to play really good red zone defense. That's kind of what their defense is based out of. They don't come after you. They don't have an elite pass rusher or pass rushers this year, kind of similar to what Hood says. So, you're seeing teams sustain a lot more drives this year, which I think is, hurting them a lot. And I think this is going to be a game for our offensive line. I think it's going to be the best game our offensive line's had thus far. Like I said, our trenches are steadily getting better, and I think you're going to see that a lot in this game. I think we jump out early. Like I said, I think Jez stays in his bag. I think, it's going to be a breakout game for both Will. And I'm going to say Adam Muhammad. I think Adam Muhammad's going to have a breakout game as well. I see Washington pulling away in the third quarter. So I got Huskies winning. I'm going to say final score is going to be 34-16.
I like that. I was nervous about picking 17 points. I mean,
No, yeah. But it's outside, and I do not see them threatening you with any type of pass rush, unless they send multiple folks. And once they do that, you're just hitting them underneath anyway. So,
or as we proved this past week, if Will has 2.5 seconds, we can complete a pass 25 yards down the field.
don't be shy if you see a lot of demand this game.
Yeah.
They cannot run. Yeah, right now.
Apologies, but for what it's worth, it looks like Jamari Harris is the top-rated cornerback in the Big Ten per PFF too, with a 90.5.
They played Ohio State last week, but
yeah, they played Ohio State last week.
He better be.
Jamari nice, but I mean, we just played Will Johnson and Jai.
Yeah, I mean, and Minnesota was able to complete some of that stuff underneath, or to move the chains against them. And again, it's a situation like, yes, it's a home game where they were at Minnesota, and yes, Iowa's got a great atmosphere, and it's going to be loud, but Will Rogers just played in the SEC.
Come on,
it was a loud stadium, even when occasionally when we had the ball this past Saturday. Credit to the Michigan fans that showed up and were up in the upper deck and bouncing their noise off the rafters. Like, it's not anything that this team hasn't seen before. Like, yeah, it's loud. Okay, in-helmet communication. Make sure not to commit a bunch of false starts, and we'll be fine. JCap, what do you think about this one? What's your call?
I mean, it's all kind of the same thing. I mean, it's contain Caleb, and it's stay on schedule and convert on those underneath throws, which, I mean, we've been seeing a lot of anyway. I feel like this is going to be a big Giles game, and I could see Kaleki having a big game in this one as well, expanding his role even more so. Because, I mean, Hood very, very clearly has a take on Iowa's linebackers, and they're not Michigan's linebackers. So I think Kaleki definitely has an opportunity to make some noise in this game for sure. I'm going to go Dogs 28-14.
I like that too. That's probably more.
And I think, and I think this also could be a good game for Jeremiah too.
Every game's been potentially a good game for Jeremiah this year, though.
But one of the times that we're gonna have to hit. He's had a couple of good games. Like, one of these days, we're gonna have to hit pay dirt on that. And if Jamari Harris is the best corner,
his big one against Eastern Michigan, but other than that, has he gone over like 25 receiving yards the rest of the season? He was 3 for 21 against Michigan.
Man, the fact that we got to think about it is crazy.
Yeah, right.
He was
supposed to be wide receiver 1.
Could be a nice spot for him to break out.
But I kind of am in the same boat. I think it's, I think we get in the end zone 4 times, and I think we do get a field goal from Grady. So I'm going to call it Dogs 31. I think 31-13. I think Iowa can move the ball a little bit, but I think it's one of those situations where the red zone defense, I mean, the end zone also, like, the closer you get against our defense, the end zone becomes an extra defender.
Yep.
I think we score on defense this game.
Yeah, it's very possible. And I think it's on probably a batted ball pick. Or just a jump route, because I think you can, if you do enough to get them into 3rd and long situations, Cade's going to throw one that he shouldn't, and off you go.
I'm curious how the officials are going to call this game, too.
That's a great point, especially being in Kinnick. I think if there's one team that has consistently competed in this conference but kind of gets the shaft every now and then, it is Iowa. So especially in like the games versus Ohio State, Michigan, or Michigan State, like they tend to kind of be like, okay, well, they've not necessarily been the darlings, so, and their physical brand, they get a lot of like the defensive hold in and all that kind of stuff too. So, us picking over like 25 points for you, Dub, I feel like, obviously I just did it, but I just feel like it could be a game too where it's a nice 21 or 24 type of game, but they got 3 or they got 7 or they got 10. I just think I think if you're relying on run game explosives in modern college football, good luck, bro. Like, you know what I mean? And I can even, with how good Caleb is, like, we haven't all season given up those types of seams. You know what I mean? Those types of creases where nobody's being touched for 3, 4, 5. If anything, somebody's getting touched in the backfield, they'll break a tackle and they'll get 1 or 2 or 3. But typically, people are getting contacted pretty early. So I'm really curious to see how his specific running style and their offensive line game plan for us. Also, too, with the interior defensive line kind of being banged up with Durfee most likely probably not playing. Like, we'll definitely see, and they'll definitely have personnel opportunity.
Davis back this week.
Well, that's going to be interesting. That's going to be very interesting. He's more of a like a hose claw with more reps under his belt, for sure.
Yeah, Jed did say today, too, though, that he is confident in Sebastian playing, but he's worried about Durfee.
Yeah.
Oh, especially you got 2. That's tough.
That's wild, bro.
That's tough.
That's wild. That boy walking like walking like Michael Jordan right now. Jeez.
Yeah, I mean, I think Sebastian was an arm or a hand. It looked like because he made that play in the backfield, and then he got hurt on, I think, the subsequent play, and it looked
up
like
or
he
put
was
a brace on, and you'd be all right.
You see, Hooligan, I think we were talking about it real time, bro. Like, he went out, and like I initially was like, "Oh, that must be like bicep," but how's he back in? Because they like taped his low wrist, his mid elbow, and then they taped up here. I was like, "What they holding together?" Like, Jesus, his whole arm fell off or something? Jesus,
probably hyperextended his elbow.
Maybe, but
so they're just applying pressure.
Because it was like on a reach out. It was like a D-line reach out, and he tried to pull in. So I was like, "Ooh, shit, that could be a pack."
So you got to tie it tight,
back
keep
in,
pressure there, keep the blood right there, so it doesn't lock up on you. Yeah, probably what happened.
His biceps are big enough; they're fine. that boy big enough.
All right. Any final thoughts on this one?
No.
Oh, I did want to shout out UW Dog Pound on Twitter at UW on SBN. Fun fact: last time Cade McNamara threw a touchdown pass against a power conference opponent was the Big Ten title game against Iowa in 2021 when he played for Michigan.
That's unfortunate.
That's crazy.
Preseason, we all thought
had a great one.
Preseason, we all kind of wrote down Michigan and Iowa as 2 potential losses. And the fact that the season comes to fruition and they were, in hindsight, I guess, and foresight, they're easier games than Rutgers and Wazoo.
Hey, I had Rutgers as a loss.
Washington and Wazoo and Rutgers should have been easier games.
Should have been easier. Yeah. But that's kind of interesting to think about is that away game in Kinnick and then the home game versus Michigan, we all kind of were like, well, those might be the losses. And they, as the season progressed, they became much easier on paper. So,
yep. And Indiana became much more
harder.
Of a question.
Yeah, see, that's just how the season worked. Yep. So,
well, everybody, thanks for listening. I would also say our thoughts and prayers are everybody that if you're listening down in Florida or just are in the Florida area, take care of yourself,
please.
And we want the best for you. Make safe be safe, get out of the way. But thanks so much for listening. Go Dogs.
Go
We'll be
Dogs.
back next week to talk about this one.
Beat Iowa.